It has been a hectic time at the pump after a pipeline bringing fuel to the valley leaked in California. That pipeline is now repaired and normal operations have resumed, according to energy company Kinder Morgan. This as state leaders are pleading for people to stop panic buying. On Saturday, Governor Joe Lombardo declared a state of emergency. This after a leak in a California gas pipeline that supplies unleaded and diesel fuel to storage facilities in southern Nevada. Kinder Morgan, an energy infrastructure company, announced operations resumed Saturday afternoon, and the leak was detected on Thursday. The declaration allows Nevada to receive federal resources and waivers as it deals with the pipeline. However, Governor Lombardo says although the pipeline has resumed, the state of emergency will be in effect until fuel transportation and supply turns to normal.
They've repaired their pipeline, and what they're going to have to do now is get the flow going back through the pipes, continue testing it, and all of our pipes come in through a pipeline through Arizona, and we're going to make sure that it's filling up our stations here. And then our trucking in town, because I know a lot of the stations became empty yesterday with a lot of people grabbing fuel.
John owns Pipeline Dogs, where his team of dogs helps sniff out leaks. He's worked all over the country and says frequent testing of leaks is important and necessary.
Anything from a pinhole to a garden size hose hole to a full on hole in the pipe. So this pipeline was particularly above ground, and they were visually seeing gasoline on the ground itself. Because the pipes are elevated.
This all happening in Long Beach, California. Kinder Watson said pipelines involved have been isolated, but with all of this happening, it didn't stop locals from lining up, and Clark County officials tweeting this out to local residents asking to conserve fuel and avoid panic buying. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Last night, several gas stations were sold out, like the Smiths on Sunset.
We heard about the broken gas line and that gas prices going through the roof.
It's kind of depressing because they started to go down and I thought they were going to normalize, and here we're paying more money again.
And Kinder Morgan operates 3,000 miles of pipeline that services 7 states, including Nevada. No injuries or fires were reported from this leak.